The first time I went in, this is before I met Loren, I went in for a voice audition at the same production company that he was working for. But it was for a voice audition for educational software. And I don't know, God knows what. It was like learn math, it's important. Like that was the copy. Something like, don't forget to learn it right.
Boy, is that a lie. No?
What's that?
About learning math. Is that?
That is a lie.
Yeah.
Now that we're grown-ups.
It's not important.
It's not important.
Right, no,
it's not important.
That's not.
That's true, I agree. But I did a voice demo, and I did like I think Australian, I just crappy, like kind of bad accents and voices and stuff. And I told Loren that I did that over the phone the first time he called me. And he went and fished out this tape, and he took one of the voices I did, which is just pretty much my actual speaking voice, maybe a faster rhythm, just a little bit, and pitched it up digitally so it sounded a little bit higher, like a kid's. And that was kind of like, you came to me and said, like, do you remember doing this? And I said, oh, okay, yeah, let's try something like that. And that was the kid's voice, kind of. And I just, like, basically, when I do Brendon, it's pretty much my speaking voice, which is kind of nasally. But I think I turn it on just a little bit more, and then we pitch it up. And we're just, I'm kind of conscious, mildly, of rhythm in the booth, but a lot of that is unconscious and / manipulated in post-production too, at times, right? When they pitch my voice, they actually, it tightens it up a little bit.
Yeah.
The rhythm, the meter is faster.
Yeah.
Right.
It's really cool. There's something amazing that last pass when we pitch Jason, Brendon, and Melissa, it gets a little funnier.
It gets a little funnier because I remember listening to like rough audios and going like, God, my acting is just so behind the beat. You know, it just feels like it's. And then we pitch it up and I'm like, oh, that's the home movies that's the show all the time. But rhythm, I think, is an important thing when me and Benjamin, I think, do stuff together. I don't know if you're conscious of it, but maybe I'm not in the moment. But there definitely is a rhythmic thing that happens. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
You don't have to.
No, I mean there is probably. I think it varies based on like as anything in improv does. It depends on the particular scene you're doing.
Yeah,
but I think it got easier to do it together once you're familiar with the characters. And
sure, but it's also the kind of thing like you have a certain meter to you when you speak. I kind of naturally fill in the gaps. Like when you do switch
I do a lot
subjects.
Of stammering.
Right, exactly.
And
we also talk over each other
in
in the show, which is something that people come up and ask about a lot, which is you leave in the mistakes, you leave in the problems. You
can't possibly leave in all the mistakes.
We can't leave all the mistakes. If we left in the mistakes, all the mistakes, then the show would be like really long. But Loren instinctively knew that like that's what kind of made the characters come to life too, was the mistakes, like where you're actually trying to figure out what you're trying to say on the spot.
Yeah.
Which yeah.
The first time an actor says something, I think, is the best time because they're more engaged in that moment. Whether they're reading it or thinking of it, it's just the first time because that's when they're sort of like
the least self-conscious.
Yeah, and they're most interested in what the audience is going to react to.
I've always seemed like it took me about 45 minutes to an hour
to really get in the groove.
Right. Also, what I said is wrong.
Yes.
It's
also very right.
Something
and it's also very wrong.
Yes.
It's one of three things. It can either be the first
doesn't
take
matter
or in the middle or the very
says.
end.
It's almost
right. Or when they say it.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think that's what I think.
First time the actor thinks of something, just funny, an improv.
Yes, that's true.
That's because you're clearly. It's almost like when you're improvising on camera or anything else. You can clearly think that you see that they're focused and they are thinking of what they're trying to say.
That's right.
Otherwise, it is contrived, and you're trying to trick yourself into getting that.
Right.
You know.
You have to act.
Yeah, which is horribly hard.
It's hard.
Terrible.
No, which is the good thing about doing shows like home movies is that you can be.
You just read it
once. You don't have to be a good actor to play a character. You can be extremely mediocre at it, but there's something authentic about it.
There's an authenticity, right?
But good actors know how to be authentic on cue.
Yes, I'm not that at all.
No, that's a studied, learned person that can do that. For us, we've managed to trick the system in some
No, don't say it's true. You guys are relaxed and funny.
You think so?
Which is
really
true.
You think is that?
That's the thing.
It's nice.
Somehow.
That's funny.
That's cute.
That's cute and nice.
And it's true.
And it's on camera.
So implicitly
Yeah, if
younger.
anyone wants to know like the ages of the characters, Brendon and Melissa are both 8. Jason is 1 year younger. That was something, I don't know if it's always apparent in the show, but we always knew that he was a year younger.
Yes.
He's homeschooled too, I like to believe.
I believe, but however he does show up in
now
school
he
and
is.
take classes. Yeah. Now he is. You're making that. That's a new improv. Yeah. And he's homeschooled now. Now that the show's finished.
Yeah.
He's changed his mind.
Yeah.
Right, I'm still thinking of ideas about
Yeah, I know.
what to do
great,
next with Jason.
It's so fun.
Now that the show's been over for a year.
I know. The question is like, and I've been asked that question sometimes too, is that how do you play a kid? And the answer is you kind of don't. You know, it would be basically if, because then you start acting like a kid, and then you're acting, and then you're acting like a precocious kid, and you're trying to just basically like precocious kids. The thing I always thought about Brendon was he's not necessarily smart book-wise, but socially he is. He understands. And he's very verbal and honest about how he's feeling, like kind of in the moment, and when he's confused, you know,
right.
or when he understands something. Like that's the social kind of like maturity that he has. And the other thing about home movies is that it's a role reversal to a degree, wherein McGurk is kind of an irresponsible child, and Brendon is almost more of a father figure to him than McGurk is to Brendon. Paula is also, she's kind of lost. She's kind of the kind of character that's in a little bit over her head, but also very relaxed about it. And again, like when you have a situation like that, the kid has to step up, I think, and take responsibility to some degree in like real life and in fake life, like home movies.
That's the message.
That's the message. Yeah.
Take responsibility.
Yeah, take
Dad.
Yeah.
Mom.
Anybody.
Uncle Lou. You know who you are.
Mm. The show was naturally just conceived about a single mother, and I don't know how much attention that you had like planned on drawing to that, other than like here's the single mother and here's her kid, you know. But I think the truth is that I've spoken to people who did come. My parents are together still, and I think most of these people I know. But I think most of the people that worked on the show, the parents were together. So we never really had the actual frame of reference to write.
My parents are still together, but I'm certain they're faking it.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think that it's actually really interesting that Dr. Katz was about
a single
father and a sort of very missing mother. And then we did the same thing here, though we ended up bringing the father into movie.
Right, exactly.
I think it's just
focused on like I think the fact. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think it's great. It's like makes for a cool up family dynamic. It's just like it is absolutely like the thing that you don't see. Right. That is in the elephant in the room kind of a thing. I think it just adds a lot.
It truly is like the reason for everything, for the show to be on, for the show to exist is because it's the father left, For me,
I think it creates this great space for the McGurk character too. It's like he wouldn't be the same thing, and he wasn't in those episodes. We did a funny thing with when the father and McGurk are competitive with each other.
Yeah,
it was a great way.
It's kind of a natural thing. That
right.
Seemed to
special episode, but in general, when there's no father and McGurk just fills this space with his own weird sort of bad advice and bad role model.
Definitely, and we kind of like we showcased that as the show was continuing on in other seasons that. This is a very functioning, dysfunctional family, wherein there are innate gaps that are filled by Jason and Melissa, the brothers and sisters, the false fathers and the mothers and uncles and whatever. I mean, it's just a big family that kind of found itself.
And it's really, a lot of people have noticed this, and I think you guys will agree, it's really a show about a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is about a baby.
Baby named Josie.
Baby named Josie.
It's almost going to be the title of this show.
That was pretty much it, yeah.
I guess with Coach McGurk, it was Loren saying, "You're a coach." I don't know whether I was a soccer coach. I guess I was.
You might have picked that. Or that was
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was. A soccer
there was
coach,
I remember soccer coach was just a natural thing.
Yeah, that was Tom Snyder's idea.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess I think I remember not wanting to do him the way I do him. Like very stereotypical mean, yelling at kids kind of coach, which just sort of seemed very obvious.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I had a soccer coach who was, when I went to, I guess it was in junior high, who was the polar opposite. He was the history professor that was, very wispy and fey, and He didn't even. He was just appointed as coach. He wasn't into soccer.
That's really going the other way.
Or anything.
Right? But that's real.
But I didn't, unfortunately, do that. Or fortunately, but so I went with the obvious choice of what I thought would be immediately funny to people in the room, which was yell.
Which always is funny. But to your credit, I think he's a lot more than
he's
a gruff coach. I think
extremely layered. But no, yeah, I do remember thinking like, oh, that's too bad I did that, like right after the first thing. But, of course, Loren was always either authentically supportive or fake.
In such a convincing manner.
Yeah, supportive.
Right.
He was like, oh, that was great. So I was sort of stuck with it, I guess, doing it like that. But it did, the good fortune with doing shows like this is, at least for the time being, you're doing 12 more, and you can develop, especially with improv, develop a character completely. You're free to develop it
and another thing,
any way you want.
On that note, I think that one thing that we were kind of interested in doing in the home movies is finding out how far we could go with these characters. And I think in the future seasons, we do find fun little tiny layers that if you're watching closely, you will be in tune with, I think.
Well, the thing I think is significant to bring up, as is most of the things I bring up,
right,
is the I forgot.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? You're about to do it? Benjamin is incredibly protective of his characters. You may not realize it, but
really? I didn't know.
You very much so. Yeah, like I think we get to a line and then we're like having a rhythm and then you get to a line and dead silence. And you go,
well, I think this was what I was...
But you know these moments, right, Loren?
Yes.
Yeah, where it's like, where I might have like overwritten something, or it makes like, or I think it's a good joke, and he's
Well, you know what? This is what I was going to say, and I think I was fortunate to do Dr. Katz before, and then you were very fortunate to get the job on Home Movies.
What do you mean that?
No, I mean in the sense that it was good.
The way that you said it is, it wasn't in that sense.
Well, then you're reading into it.
But I think you actually meant something there.
Well, I think you're crazy.
Well, how did we leap from me reading into something being crazy?
Well, I mean, I think you're crazy. Anyway.
Do you think that?
No, but that's not the point. That's not what this is about.
It's all right if you think that I'm crazy. I just want to know when that started.
I'm saying
today
the good thing about what Dr. Katz at least taught me is, and what they did in Home Movies was that, and I think what they don't do on regular television shows or shows that there are a lot of writers and there's a lot of formula involved and there's a lot of people who produce it, and is that it's always about like making it fresh, and people keep trying to find very inauthentic ways to make it fresh. Unfortunately, it sort of has the opposite effect. Like the more you go out of your way to make it different than the previous episode, the more you're making it less real and usually less good. And Home Movies and Dr. Katz we try to do the same thing over and over again. At least there was no, and that was, I think what you were saying before, like Cartoon Network, occasionally like after the second season or the third season, people are like, let's add stuff, make it different, let's bring in other stuff, and let's make it weird, let's get them go to Hawaii, or whatever, We were always, that was a thing we always And I always really appreciated the idea, like, it was just the same thing all the time, and let the characters just live in their world, and don't force it too far outside that. And so the fact that it didn't change much, I think, which is, I think, against the philosophy of a lot of other television, makes it fresher and more authentic. Here's a kid who doesn't have a father in his life, who was given this camera, and since everything else in his life is spinning out of control, the one thing he can make sense of are he can control these universes, each like independent from the next. He's in charge of all that stuff, so he becomes a control freak, basically, in some way, to grasp onto something, and that's his whole motivation. Like so many great filmmakers. Just be silent for a second. Let's take a minute of silence for Steven Spielberg. Yeah.
I want to. Are we doing the minute now?
Did he die?
No,
he died.
but how rich he is.
Oh.
I would like to think that if Jason grew up, he would become a voiceover cartoon. Like he'd be in a booth doing a cartoon, playing a cartoon character, and it would be so weird.
Right, it's like a double whammy.
That it would just be like, that's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. How do you imagine Brendon when he?
Well, I think
he's
of
25.
Brendon as he will do the same. He'll throw himself down a set of stairs and get that same kind of like non-growing thing in the tin drum and remain an 8-year-old, and
right,
and just be permanently frozen that way. That's how I remember him.
It's the great thing about cartoons is they never grow up.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's so cool.
Right.
It's just this moment.
That's the beautiful lie that is television. That you can be so up in real life,
right,
but create this.
It's very
nice,
perfect
sweet
world.
thing
It's a perfect world that they live in.
that will live forever
Yeah.
as we spiral
Slowly
out of
die,
control.
yeah.